igihe cyarageze mukuru wanjye muhinga yo kumushimira ko ari we wangejeje i Kigali muri make, ariko we ntago yanyuzwe, ahubwo yantwariye umugabo.
Whenever we go through difficult problems in this life, family is where we turn to comfort and support. But some people are not blessed enough to have a comforting family, just like this woman here, Uwineza Ange. The mother of 5 children, Ange has always believed that her older sister is her shoulder to which she can lean on. But the same sister has been the source of her problems, of which she still lives with today. The depressed Ange lives alone now, but a couple of years ago, she was living with her husband before her older sister took her away when she needed him the most. Why did her sister take her husband away, and what is the state of their current relationship today? This is her story. When Ange raised her right arm beside her husband on her wedding day, she thought that for the very first time ever, she was going to enjoy life for once. She had had a bad life since her childhood. My life is a long journey. I had a bad childhood as my older sister treated me as a housemaid in her house. I have never experienced joy in my life. I grew up at my older sister's house, but I couldn't study because she treated me like her housemaid. I was always raising her children, doing some housemaid jobs, and that's how I stopped to study. At 17, with no education, no any other skill, Ange was already a depressed young woman who couldn't see her future life, until a man showed up and proposed to her, and they got married. When Ange gave birth to a girl, her husband was furious and left her because he wanted a boy. Ange returned back to the village to give birth beside her mother. Her sister called her back to the city as she needed money to build her life again. And that's how she returned back to her house where her misery continued.
noneho yarankoresheje cyane bikabije, yaramvunishije bikabije cyane, akora akazi kakora nk'abantu nka 5 ku munsi. Bwari ubuzima butoroshye, naharaga n'ubundi numva mfite agahinda, nkahora nibaza imibereho yanjye bikanyobera.
Luckily, her husband came back and requested her to stay with him again, as he wanted to raise his child. She hesitated but later agreed. At the same time, she pardoned her sister who exploited her and denied her a chance to attend school. However, all her efforts and sacrifice were later nullified.
Igihe cyarageze mukuru wanjye muhinga yo kumushimira ko ari we wangejeje i Kigali muri make, ariko we ntago yanyuzwe, ahubwo yantwariye umugabo.
The story of how Ange's sister took her husband is beyond our imagination. It was the time when Ange needed her sister and her husband the most, since she was sick and hospitalized. But instead of taking care of her, they both chose to smash her heart forever. The time came and I was very sick. I was admitted to the hospital for 2 months. My kids and the father stayed at home. But when I came back home from the hospital, I was shocked to realize that my husband had left our children and went to live together with my older sister. Imagine being admitted to the hospital and there is no one to visit you, no one to be around you. Your husband never came to visit you. Your sibling never came to visit you. And when you finally get home, you only find that your children are alone. It was so heartbreaking. I came home and I couldn't find him. Whenever I tried to call him, his phone was never picked up. I started to think that he had massive problems. Maybe he was jailed or had another big problem. I asked my older sister to help me look for him since I was still recovering from my sickness, and she told me that she had not found him in all the prisons she had searched him from. By then, I wasn't yet aware that they both lived together. The story of how she managed to discover this deadly secret is even more depressing. It was one afternoon when Ange's mother called her older sister after she had learned that when Ange was in the hospital, her sister never visited her even once. Upon calling her, the phone was picked by her then husband, who was formerly Ange's husband. Her mother hung up immediately, called Ange to ask what was going on, but Ange was surprised since she hadn't seen her husband for a while. When her mother informed her that her husband might be living with her older sister, Ange was extremely shocked but decided to go and verify it herself.
nari ndwaye pe ndembye ariko nabwiye umwana mukuru.
I was very sick, but I told my firstborn daughter to take my arm and we went to my older sister's house. Before we entered, my child saw her father's car inside the compound of my older sister's house, and she begged me to go back home since we had seen the proof of what we were coming to look for. I insisted on getting inside. I was able to see my husband. We progressed to the living room and found out that they were having a big party, drinking alcohol as people who were enjoying a massive party. Because Ange was very sick and weak, her child tried to confront her father, who pushed her down. Ange and her child went back home as the situation escalated, but they were thinking that the man would follow them this time, though he didn't do so. After some weeks, he came back, but he was very different. My husband later came back, but you could see that he was no longer the same person. He almost had nothing, including his car and his other stuff. But because her children love him so much, I decided to welcome him again. He later told me that he was going to work from the Democratic Republic of Congo. But he never came back, and all his phone numbers were no longer working. Today, with no husband and raising 5 children, Ange is going through a hell of a life. She doesn't have a job and her house is about to get auctioned since her husband gave it as collateral to a bank when he wanted to buy a car. But what breaks her heart more than anything is the fact that her children are not able to attend school because of lack of school fees.
Nasaba kimbabaje cyane nuko abana banjye batari kwiga. Abaye hari abagira neza bagifite umutima wa kimuntu, bamfasha abana banjye bagasubira ku ishuri. Ko njye ngira igikomere cy'uko mukuru wanjye yatumye niga. Noneho n'abana banjye nabona bicaye nk'uko ababonye bari hano bose nta n'umwe wagiye ku ishuri. Numva ntabwo byoroshye.
You can help Ange through the Giving Lives link, found in description and pinned in top comments. Thank you for watching. I'm Elijah and this is Afrimax English. Remember to subscribe.